Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. We're here working on an application to help you with financial management, kind of medium to long term. And one of the things we're adding is the ability to make date assumptions. So we'd like to define, we're calling it an assumption. It's kind of a variable that has a defined range. And then we would use that, we would make things depend on that variable. And then if you adjust the value of the variable, the net worth and all your reports and stuff change to that. All right, so yesterday we basically got the date specifier working that holds it. And I just had a note that says DateSpecifierView check the init. And I think what I saw, well, it looks like it's a little more complicated than it needs to be, maybe. So what's the init? Yeah, what's funny is we go through these cases, and if the type coming in, basically this is to cover editing or creating a new one. And so when you create a new one, we just pass in sort of a null type, just a brand new date spec. But if you have an existing one, then you come in with a particular one, and we set the monthYear attribute, and basically everybody uses 2020 except for the month one that actually gives us a month to use. And then we set the date type to whatever corresponds to the type on the date spec. So that type is the one we use here. I guess what caught my eye was like, why are we setting monthYear here? And basically it's to make sure something plausible is there if you switch over to a different view, because it's got to be defined, and we need to define it in certain circumstances. And I think let's try and do it this way. I think there's an error if you overwrite it when you come into this, like if you're setting it here and initializing it. I think it's not happy, but maybe I'm wrong. Run. Well, while that's building, I'll look a little further. It looks like we've got two different approaches to updating the date spec. One is we assume that whatever the child view is does it. And the other is we get a value back and we set it in here. And I think that's probably, I'd call it a flaw or a smell or something. You know, I don't think it's the best ideal. I think we should do all four the same way. Okay, so let's go edit something with a date spec. Okay, so we come in with the assumed date. Did nothing complained, huh? Oh, let's change it to a monthYear and see what happens. Yeah, so I guess the 2020, we're just defaulting it to something. So if you had assumed date, it takes whatever it is, but we got to set a monthYear value for this other one. Okay, so let's update this. It's annoying that my screen is just a little too big. Okay, and we'll run it again. And we set it to something that was not 2020 Jan. I think it was 2023 December. Was it 2026? Okay. December. Oh, that was December. This was January. Okay. 2026. All right, and still no issue there. Okay, so maybe we can just take this out. Okay, and then we've been getting a complaint about let name, and the reason the name is there is because if you do the assumption, you want to know the name, but we just passed this thing right into assumed date view. And it has the binding to that date spec, and if it wants to know the name, it just shows it. well, it selects it. We went through all that yesterday with selection. Okay, so it takes the value from the date spec if it can, and if it can't, it takes the first one on the list, and otherwise it just blanks it out, which theoretically shouldn't happen, but we'll allow for that. Or it shouldn't happen. Well, I guess if you had nothing in the list, you would have an empty one. Okay. All right, so this let name can come out here. Now that's kind of interesting. Okay, I think I'm getting into refactoring. I'm getting into refactoring this class, which I don't really want to do at this point. I do want to put it on the list, though. Let's say refactor DateSpecifierView. So all four approaches. So all four options use the same approach. Okay, so I feel like, well, this is date specifier type, to be clear. I feel like this type is not needed. It's used here, but we can push this to the child view, and then the only use of it is here. Yeah, I get, let's see. Oh, sorry. Yes. Did I delete that? Okay. Let me compare the text. Sorry about that. Yes, you're right. And that was the thing I wanted to test, because I think changing it twice might be bad, but it seems like something has that problem. I'm not sure what. I'll run tests again just to be careful, but yeah, this seems okay. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking of refactoring this, I guess. Come to that. I don't know if you can get these names from somewhere else. You're picking them. I guess that's this. The choice you make controls which view you get. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure we can change that. Let's open this. Okay, and hopefully there's no complaint. Yeah. Okay. Let's just make sure this works. Change it to 2030. Ugh. We'll restart that. Yeah, that seems okay. It certainly took. All right. Okay, so let's just check this in. Simplify date specifier view. How it loads initial month year. Okay, and I think in the long run we'll get rid of that month year state because it'll be owned by the view that uses it. There's no reason that every view should have access to it and set it to some arbitrary value when nobody else wants it. Okay. Oops, to do. Okay. I guess we'll say we simplified something. Okay. Yeah, create date assumption. That's the one we really want to do today. So if I go back here, right now we just have assumptions, and it gives you this list, and you can edit the values in it. Now, I'm not... From the UI point of view, I think what I want to do is add date assumptions down here. So probably rename this to percent assumptions, or maybe even annual percent, because we do some stuff to it. And this to date assumptions, or maybe just annual percent and dates, and let you put them in the same list. I think we can do that. Otherwise, we would have to have separate buttons for them, and I don't think we need that. We will need a separate collection that's persisted, but that's another issue, and I'm sure we can deal with that. Okay, so let's see what we can do here, and let's get out of DateSpecifierView. I think PercentAssumption view. We'll see. Last night I flipped this on, and it just updated so quickly. Okay, this is assumption. This is this view. Okay, so that's one line. Now, what I noticed with this, it works with percent assumption. You can see it here. This, and the real one that's tricky, I think, is down here. No, where did I see that? I thought there was a constructor call to percent assumption. Yeah, no. Well, that is. Yeah, well, it's very, I mean, what we want for dates is going to be very similar, except it doesn't show percent. It shows just the years. And I just don't know if we can, well, that one too. Like, can we make these so similar they don't care? I mean, maybe this percent assumption, I don't know. I pulled it apart, and now I'm wishing it were back together. We put this type in. Originally, I assumed it was going to be case percent, case date, case whatever amount. Date spec is copied from incoming data. Can you do them outside the switch once for all cases? Sorry, the date spec is copied. Well, they're not. If you're talking about the list of these, there's an assumptions array that, well, it's now called percent assumptions, that has these items in it and then corresponding views. The way it is now, there is no type. Sorry, there always is a type. It's always percent. I think you're talking about the assumption type. Oh, when I edit the date spec. I don't think there is. This date type is always set. And actually that's what we're doing in the constructor, is setting it based on the date spec we read in. So the date spec has these 4 categories, but because they have attached values like month and age and assumption and so on, I don't think you can just switch on the bare type. Well, I don't know what happens. It's that all types, where that is. Yeah, this thing, all cases. So I don't know if I, well, let's do a little experiment for each, backing up a little, date specifier dot all cases. We have to add something. Okay. Date specifier. And case iterable. Oh, there's strings too. Well, we'll see what happens. Oops. All cases date specifier. It's its own type. I think that's the confusion here. So date specifier type is the type we're using. Basically, it's there. It's there for the. Let's get it up there. It's there to provide this list of items, and then once we have it, we know that the date spec is really going to have that. It's matched up to that type. So date specifier type always corresponds to the type of date specifier. I mean, they're maintained one-to-one. Now I don't know. We can push through. All cases equals. I suppose I can just type it like this. Function produces expect. Oh, sorry. In case assumption. I think that's a bad way to tell me I needed a comma. Okay, so, well, let's run it. Okay, and so the question will be, do we see, well, where am I seeing it? Oh, okay, so I'll put them in twice, but this doesn't exist. What's the type of this? I think it's going to be date specifier type. Thanks. Date specifier conform to identifiable. Ugh, just adds and adds, doesn't it? Well, okay, then I think the problem is we can't. Well, I think let's see, can we just copy the incoming type to self-date type? Well, the incoming type is date specifier, and we're looking at date specifier type. So there are two different types. Whether that has to be, but this type I introduced so it could have the sort of UI aspect of knowing the field names we want to use here. But it maybe we can figure out a way to get this thing to work. It also wants identifiable. Okay. Yeah, I think it's creating more trouble than it's worth. Because this is not really all cases, so let's see. So the switch does not work with date specifier type. Well, we can switch on date specifier type. Sorry, this switch is working on date spec, and so it's mapping the date specifier type. But the later switch, this one's on the date type, that's the one that's going to go away. And then to spit them all out, this has the names of them, whereas there's nothing like that in date specifier to know the simple names. And then this one is on date type to choose, basically to match up to the for each here. Okay. Yeah, no, this is, well, I can see, I'm trying to avoid myself getting sucked in because I know refactoring is an easy thing to do. And I mean, what I have in mind for that part is, I think once we have this, we could make a little table that maps these. No, it can't. Maybe we can't. I don't know. Yeah, there may be a better way. I know we can get rid of this update date thing. I don't know that we can get rid of this because we have to choose between these cases. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. It's they are different types, but they're so similar. It's like I hate that they have to be there and be different, but I don't think there's a good way to map these. I mean, no, because you still have to talk about them abstractly, and that's kind of a problem with enums in general. I think with Swift, I mean, if they're simple types, like we had the other one was this equals string, it's fine. But when you've got all these things attached, there's no way to talk about what are the type categories, that give me these four things in some sense. And I don't think I can do, like this one makes them of type string. I can't make them of type string here. I can give them a string attribute. Right, I think this will break. Yeah. Enum types with raw type cannot have cases with arguments. So if you want the attached types, you've got to treat it differently. Now, I probably could, I certainly could make a method that returns the name of this thing, this sort of human consumable name of this thing that we use, and maybe that would be good enough here. I mean, this thing's doing multiple duty though. It's got that, well, it's being used, the initialization, I don't know, we could probably get around some of that. But needing this to map those, I mean, if date specifier dot names, category names or something came up with these values, then we would have to switch. I guess we could tag them somehow. But yeah, we just don't get a generic type out of an enum that has attached stuff. I have seen people put IDs on them, but we want all these independent ones. It's just not quite done. So yeah, okay, I'll move on. We will come back to it, I think, but it's more annoying than anything. All right, so what I'm seeing here is like percent assumption view. Yeah, it's a pain. I love the enums. That's one place where we get stuck with it sometimes. All right, so this one, I think maybe this one has the... Yeah, so it's using... This percent assumption is almost the same as what we have for date assumption. Oh, golly, maybe I've made a mistake in breaking them apart. I mean, it's got all the same fields. That's the same. The only difference... Well, there's not a lot of difference. Whereas the only difference is this one omits the type. Okay, how are we going to do this? We got date assumption and percent. Okay, so this type, we have that. And that's more of a convenience, I think. Okay. I mean, there is really no difference. Well, this one does a little more, that it's hashable, but there'd be no harm in this being hashable. Okay. Where's that edit assumption? Because this thing has got to be so similar, right? I mean, it's going to give you the name and the 4 fields you care about, or the 3 fields you care about. It's got a range test. It's got a valid test. We'd like to distinguish percent assumption from other, but that's different. Yeah. Yeah, here's that creation thing. We're creating it with type percent. That's hard-coded in here, but it does not have to be. Yeah, I did try and create it with generics. And I'm getting sucked back into that, but I think maybe the generic view was the wrong way to go, and maybe this percent assumption is the best thing. I mean, it's got the exact same types. There's a little difference in printing it, but even that we could ask it to print, and it could print based on its type. This could be custom string convertible, or sorry. The percent assumption could provide its own print function, and then if it's a percent, put the percent on the end and all that. All right. I think what we'll do. All right, my temptation is to put in the new case date. Now, doing this is a do nothing thing and hurts nothing. Okay, let's make sure that's true. because I don't think there's any restriction that matters. I mean, you're not going to make a year 0 as an interesting number, but that's almost more of a view issue when you create it. The min, current, and max are both, they're all integers. Okay, I don't see, this should be not hurt anything. Persistence doesn't care if there's a new field. It's only when you have a required field that's an issue. Okay, so let's open a date assumption. A date. Oh, we don't even have a test for it separately. I mean, it's a pretty empty thing. It's really just a bag of fields. Do we have a percent assumption? Not even there. Okay. Yeah, we might need a new null. Let's see. Who uses this? Oops. I think it's just we put it in our assumptions. Yeah. I don't even think it's a switch. Oh, yeah, it could be a switch. I mean, we could make separate ones. All right. So data assumption null is defined. It's used here. It's not used anywhere else, so no one cares. So let's rename it. Okay, and then yeah, it's static. I'm gonna move pieces over. Okay, yeah. So my strategy on this is I'm gonna move pieces over. Well, let's name this back to assumption. Okay, before we go too far. All right. So since my first rename apparently is free. Okay, let's name this assumption. Okay. And tests. So I'm going to name it assumption. Yeah. Hopefully it named it everywhere. And then the little bit of stuff that's in, data assumption, no. Oh, I sort of half renamed that. Okay. Okay, let's test. Right, okay, so I'll rename this to a percent assumption to assumption. I'll look at data assumptions and see what it has that percent assumption did not. Create a separate assumption call from the existing ones. Well, that's true. But I think it's so similar. I'm gonna take. I mean, that would be the most isolated way to do it. But I think they're so darn similar. I'll just do it kind of directly. And we don't do a lot with data assumptions, so I think we'll be okay. All right, so where's data assumption? Let's get these two close. Okay, so I'm going to put this on there. Now nobody's calling this yet. I don't know, two separate approaches there. I guess this one only creates it once. Okay. That stuff's all the same. That's the same. This assumption takes assumption and a new current value, and then comparable, and let's make it hashable. And there's no harm in making it hashable for the existing percent assumption. We just apparently don't put them anywhere that needs it. But I think that's okay. Oh, shoot. Am I wrong type on null date? No, I'm going to make it, I'm going to kind of bend assumption into shape before I worry about date assumption. So once we do this switch, I'll make anybody who calls a date assumption just call assumption. And hopefully that'll all work out. Okay, so let's make sure this looks good. I think I edited while those tests were going on, so let me just run them one more time. I want to get these renames and moving around in place quick, locked in. Type argument is percent. Oh, thank you. You're right. Okay, I'll do that again in a moment. Okay, just be careful. That would throw things off. Well, you saved me 20 minutes there anyway. Okay, commit. Okay, made assumption hashable. That's the big stuff. Okay, now, sorry, date assumption. All right, I want to find everybody who uses date assumption and see if I can switch them over. Now, I don't know if he'll let me rename this. Can I name it to assumption? Well, I guess it's a fair... If it works... Did it name everybody else? That's the question. Okay, fair. Okay, so I got to do that to each assumption. Okay. Let's go to assumptions, data assumptions. Okay, he's got assumption throughout. What's the complaint? I think I can take out the type and name. I don't really think there's any confusion there. Okay, run tests. Yeah. Wrong one. All right, well, we'll look at our assumed date. Okay. And run the tests like I meant to. Okay, I think, well, make sure that's good first, I guess. All right, so I think at this point we've folded together, fold into assumption. Okay, and now I've got date assumption sitting here still, but I can delete that now because nobody's using it. Okay, now I don't know, while we're waiting, this one's very similar. I don't know if we can, yeah, it would be nice to fold that all into one big thing and then sort it out in the view, like do group by the type or something. It's very close. There's not much in here that's specific to assumption dates. Current. Yeah, that's different. But we might be able to just have two different calls because different places may be using it. Current. Date specifier needs that. Yeah, I mean, it's a conversion. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we removed date assumption. Okay. Push. Okay. So, I mean, I think so far, I think this is forward progress. This similarity here, where's percent assumptions? Well, let's compare these two now. Okay, so they have coding keys. Well, we're not persisting yet, so that's a problem. They both have shared. Was changed, assumptions being array of assumption. Well, that's probably still true. Yeah, we force that in, but that's okay. Then we got load. We don't have load yet because we don't do any persistence. I'm trying to line them up. Add, find, month. Add, find. Okay, we got monthly rate there. Remove, replace. And then we have verified. We don't ask for current. That's interesting. I thought a percent ones would. And then we have an iterator. It's very close. Keep going to the wrong one. Now the people who ask for, like somebody asks for find monthly rate, that's sort of like current on the other one. Right, there's the current. Let's find usages. I think the people who do this know what they want. All right, so yeah, that's the string name. We look it up, get its monthly rate. That seems okay. That's specific to somebody who knows they're dealing with a percent assumption. Okay, so, well, I think we might be able to get one step done. Let's look at edit assumption. See, I think everything in here, except it doesn't know that it's a percent. Well, that's yeah. I mean, if you knew, Well, you're passing in an assumption. Wait a minute. Okay, so edit assumption view. Let's go there. Assumptions. Edit. Okay, that's pretty bland. Update assumption, and you're setting these values, but you know the type already. Okay, so if you hit save, well, what are you hitting there? You're hitting create or save, update. Okay, and then if you do plus, you get create. I think this percent is the same as assumption.type. Because when you edit it, the way we edit is you're already in a category. This is really percent assumptions. And so when you edit this, I don't think we're going to let you change it to a date. So, yeah, I think this can be just assumption.type. Okay, whoops, did not mean to do that. I meant to do that. Let's look for percent. Okay, yeah, so that's the only occurrence of the word percent in here. Okay, so I feel like you're generic enough that we're okay. Now, the default min and max assumption.min, yeah, you might pass a different one in. Right. Yeah, the only difference is this plus. Well, he's on assumptions, isn't he? Okay, let's find the view that contains this view. I think that's this one. Assumptions view, pyramid assumptions. Yeah. Okay. And oh wait, what's this? That's the header. Percent assumption view. Okay, section has the header. The header has the plus, and the button how's that working? This button is the plus. That really turns on create view. Okay, edit assumption view, assumption null. Yeah, I really do want two headers. So how does assumption know? Yeah, I mean, he's getting this in. Does he care? I think that, yeah, I think that goes back to your creating a null that by type. I mean, this header could take the type, and then that's all you'd need to know is that type. Okay. All right. So I think I'd like to make this. So I'm not really sure how to do this. If I want to group with a list with sections, I think there's a way to do it off a single collection. So let me let's do a little research there. Swift UI section. And maybe we'll see an example that, well, this always looks good. All right, I can do it manually if I have to. Can add header and footer to sections. Oh, well, that's kind of nice. I know what I've done now. I guess I've added a header. Okay. All right, but I think people are going to give me the easy way on this stuff and hard code it. Yeah. Yep. Okay. I suppose I should look at the documentation because it may just tell me exactly what it is. Group section. I think I don't know what that section list thing is. Section collection, opaque collection. Group and knit sections of transform. Adding sections group by type. I mean, it's not the worst. If I have to go through that list twice, I mean, that's not unbearable. Access raising the group and knit section of transform. Okay, let's go back. A type that collects multiple instances into a single unit. I don't think that's it. That's the question I have. Yeah, okay. For each section, do stuff. Yeah. Yeah, the easy way is to filter. That would kind of be... Well, maybe it's similar enough, because if I had assumptions dot sections or dot types, or dot sections is fine, And then you're asking section.occurrences. No, it's still funny. Events. Oh, that would give you the section. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to change it. Okay, I'm going to pass. I'm going to make this a function so I can pass some arguments. Assumption type. Okay, that should look the same. But it makes me want to pass in a name too. Nope, it's this one. Okay. Yeah, that's still there. Good. All right. So I'm going to pass the name to name. Okay. And then well, does that pyramid, and that was conveying base to me. There is a percent one and there's a calendar one, but let's make this name. Make this name. Okay, and then I want that name type icon name coming in too. Oops. I think it's just called percent. But I think there's a calendar in there too somehow. Yeah. Okay. Where's the beta thing? I didn't find them compelling, mind you, but I mean, that's calendar-ish. Okay, it's just called calendar. All right. Oh. Thank you. Now, can I do that second for each? I'm just going to toss the section I want in there first. A little experiment here. Okay. That's all right. We have that in a scroller, so that's okay. Right now. Okay, so can I... I wonder if I need this intermediate type that's got information on my section type, because something has to hold this if I'm going to iterate over it. But maybe... Okay. I mean, if I had something that was just section and it gave me back a little object that knew this stuff, would that be enough? I bet he would. Okay, so let's... Okay, am I going to get too balled up? PercentAssumption view is specific. How much does it know it's a percent, though? I think he knows that. I mean, he looks to me like he's pretty ignorant about it. And he's got an assumption, so he could use the type to figure it out. Okay, and then let's get these together now. Edit assumption view. Oops. Wow. Okay. Edit assumption view. I believe we've made generic. We put the assumption type coming back from it when it edits something. So that part's okay. So I think he's okay. Now this one. Whoops, PercentAssumption view. He also should know, he can tell the type he's looking at, so that's doable. Value. Okay, min, max. Oh, interesting. So these don't put the percents on those. Okay, min and max. Editing changed. That's okay. Yeah, I think that percent sign is the only thing that really makes this not acceptable. And that can we tell that from assumption? Okay, so this, let's give this a function. All right, so the function is func as string, he takes in value. Why is that double? Oh, dragging makes it double. He really wants to see. Okay, I got to keep my head on this. This is the... Well, I don't even know if he needs to know that. He's got the value. I mean, I think... Assumption doesn't change. Assumption's type doesn't change. I mean, would that be enough? And then in here we call I think I can mix and match. All right, I think that's... Okay, I mean, these are still, those were okay. All right, I think that's all right. Okay, so I believe okay, so let's see what we've done. We made edit assumption view, use assumptions type rather than hard coding percent. made percent assumption view show value based on type. Okay. I think that's it. Okay, so now percent assumption view I think is just assumption view. So let's rename that. Okay, the view still views. All right, let's check in a rename. Okay, so based. All right, I guess I want to do a stupid implementation first. Where's that assumptions view? Or okay, I guess I got two choices. One is I could try and get date assumptions folded into percent assumptions. And there's definitely advantages to that. Okay, so let's try and do that. Observable, good. Shared is itself, was changed, and it's got assumptions. Now I could add those in, although I don't think I have to yet. The only reason we have them is so we could play with them in the date specifier, because we can't create them. But now we're going to be able to create them, I think. So I'll leave those out. All right, I believe add is basically the same. Append was changed. Find is assumptions first, name equal name. Find monthly rate over here, but over here we have current. And okay, we'll rename that later. Replace, remove, add. We did a little. Oh no, remove, add was changed. Yeah. Remove. Okay. And verified here. And count, well, count is useful enough. Let's take these three. All right, this is not quite. They don't have quite the same interpretation. This names is really, it's used in DateSpecifierView, but it's not used anywhere else. Same for this one. Okay, but I think other than that, okay, then we have the sequence, make iterator, assumptions sorted by this and that. Okay. Right, that should all build and run tests. Okay, so we added some functions that aren't in DateAssumptions over to PercentAssumptions. Now we need to do some test folding too. Okay. Now, I'm going to move these two down. This one only applies to APR, to percents, only makes sense for percents, I should say. These three are used by the date ones. This one could be useful more generally. Actually, we will want it at some point. Let's see who calls this. Well, nobody. We just copied it in, sorry. Let's see who calls this. I think it's just DateSpecifierView. Assume date view, yeah, and some tests. Okay. Right. Could we? Who uses the word date assumptions? Well, that could certainly be assumptions. My goal is to make it pull from assumptions if we can. Date specifier uses date assumptions. This shows for each shared names. Okay. Date assumptions, the date assumptions. Okay, so I'm going to try and move everybody who references assumptions, to percent assumptions. Let's start with this test. That's a good place to go. Because if the test can do it, that's a good sign for everybody else.